shown you nothing but respect. Now please, let go of my wrist.
Are you talking back to me? Do you know who I am? I'll ruin you.
Hana stood beside her grandmother's hospital bed, holding the frail hand that had once been so strong, had once braided her hair and cooked her meals, and held her through nightmares after her parents died. Lee Soon-ja was 74 now, her body worn down by diabetes and kidney failure, but her mind was still sharp, her spirit still fierce. "You're lying to me," her grandmother said, studying Hana's face with the intensity of someone who'd raised a child and knew every tell. "That's not from falling on subway stairs." Hana had known the cover story wouldn't work on her grandmother, but she'd hoped. "It's nothing, Halmeoni, just an accident at work. It looks worse than it is. Someone hit you. It wasn't a question. It doesn't matter. It's handled. Everything matters." Her grandmother's grip tightened, surprisingly strong. "Tell me who hurt you, Hanaya." "A customer. He was drunk. But it's fine, really." "I have bigger news." Hana forced brightness into her voice, steering the conversation away from dangerous territory. "The hospital called this morning. Your bills have been paid. All of them. There's some kind of foundation that approved emergency assistance for you. You can stay here, keep getting treatment. Everything." Her grandmother's expression shifted from concern to confusion. "A foundation? What foundation? I never heard of any application." Dr. Park apparently submitted it weeks ago. They approved it yesterday. "Halmeoni, we don't have to worry about the money anymore. You can focus on getting better." Tears formed in her grandmother's eyes, spilling down her weathered cheeks. "Aigu, my child. You've been carrying such a burden. I knew you were working too hard, knew you weren't eating properly, knew you'd given up everything for me. You raised me, you gave up everything for me first." Hana's own tears threatened, but she blinked them back. "This is just paying you back. You shouldn't have to pay me back. You should be living your life, finishing school, finding someone who makes you happy, not working yourself to death for an old woman who's already lived her time. Don't talk like that. You're not old and you're not dying. You're going to get better, and I'm going to finish nursing school eventually, and everything is going to be fine." Her grandmother squeezed her hand again. "You always were stubborn. Like your mother, she never gave up either, even when she should have." They sat in comfortable silence for a while, the rhythmic beep of medical equipment providing a steady backdrop. The hospital room was small but clean, the window overlooking a small garden where patients sometimes walked when they were strong enough. Hana had spent so many hours in this room over the past 6 months, watching her grandmother sleep, reading textbooks she couldn't afford to keep, wondering how she'd possibly manage to keep this woman she loved so much alive. And now, miraculously, that weight was gone. The bills were paid. Her grandmother could stay. They had time. But the questions lingered at the edges of Hana's mind. The timing was too perfect. The same night she'd been assaulted, the same night she'd faced potential financial catastrophe, suddenly everything was resolved? Dr. Park had supposedly submitted the application 3 weeks ago, but no one had mentioned it until now? And then there was the black car that had followed her this morning. The sense of being watched that had prickled at her neck all day during her convenience store shift. "Halmeoni," she said slowly, "do you believe in coincidences?" Her grandmother's eyes sharpened. "In my experience, very few things are truly coincidental." "Why?" "Just something I've been thinking about." Hana didn't elaborate. Her grandmother was already worried about her. She didn't need to add paranoia about being followed to the list. A nurse came in to check vitals and administer medication. Hana used the interruption to check her phone. 3 missed calls from an unknown number, 1 voicemail. She stepped into the hallway to listen. "Miss Yoon, this is Manager Park from the Velvet Room." I apologize for the disturbance. Could you please call me back at your earliest convenience? It's regarding your employment status. Thank you. Hana's stomach dropped. They wanted to make it official. Probably. Sign paperwork acknowledging her termination. Maybe offer a small severance to ensure she didn't make trouble. She almost deleted the message without responding, but something made her call back. Manager Park answered immediately. Miss Yoon, thank you for returning my call. I assume this is about my firing. Hana kept her voice neutral, professional. Actually, no. Quite the opposite. There's been a misunderstanding about last night's incident. After reviewing the situation more carefully, we've determined that you should not have been terminated. We'd like to offer you your position back with a formal apology and a significant raise to 25,000 won per hour. Hana's mind went blank. 25,000 won per hour was nearly double what she'd been making. No one got raises like that, especially not after being fired. I don't understand. Last night you fired me because that customer complained. What changed? Manager Park's voice was carefully controlled. We received guidance from upper management that the situation was handled inappropriately. You were not at fault for the incident, and our response was unjust. The Velvet Room prides itself on treating employees fairly, and we failed in that regard. We hope you'll accept our apology and return to work. Upper management. What upper management? The Velvet Room was independently owned, as far as Hana knew. Unless someone had bought it recently, or unless someone with enough influence had made a phone call. Can I ask what happened with the customer? The one who, she couldn't quite say it, hit me, assaulted me. That customer has been permanently banned from our establishment and has issued a formal apology for his behavior. It won't happen again, Miss Yoon. You have my word. CEO Jae-hyuk, who treated people like disposable furniture, who never faced consequences, had apologized, had been banned. None of this made sense. I need to think about it, Hana said. Of course. Please take your time. But Miss Yoon, I want you to know that the Velvet Room is a safe place for our staff. What happened last night was an aberration, and we've implemented new policies to ensure it never happens again. After ending the call, Hana stood in the hospital hallway, her mind racing. Within less than 24 hours of the worst night of her life, her grandmother's bills had been mysteriously paid, and she'd been offered her job back with a massive raise. The same job she'd been fired from for being assaulted. Someone was helping her. Someone with enough power to pay hospital bills and pressure exclusive bars to rehire staff. Someone who'd been watching, who'd known what happened, who'd decided to intervene. The black car, the sense of being followed. Not a threat. Protection. But who? And why? Hana pulled out her phone and did something she rarely did because data was expensive. She searched for news about CEO Jae-hyuk. Nothing about last night, of course. His people would have suppressed that immediately. But there was something new, posted just an hour ago. A statement from Jae himself, published on his company's official social media. She clicked the link and read, I want to take a moment for personal reflection. Recently, I've been reminded that success in business means nothing if we fail in basic human decency. I've been privileged my entire life, and that privilege has sometimes made me blind to how my actions affect others. I've treated people as less than they are, particularly those in service positions. This is unacceptable. I'm committing to doing better, to treating everyone with the respect they deserve, regardless of their position or relationship to me. We are all human beings worthy of dignity. I hope others in positions of power will join me in this commitment. Hana read it 3 times. It was vague enough to avoid admitting any specific wrongdoing, but specific enough that anyone who'd witnessed last night's incident would understand exactly what he was referring to. This was the apology of someone who'd been forced to make it, who'd been given no choice. Someone had made CEO Jae-hyuk apologize. Someone had made him scared enough to publicly humble himself. Hana's hands trembled slightly as she put her phone away. She should feel relieved, grateful. Her problems were being solved by a mysterious benefactor. But instead, she felt trapped, like a mouse who'd been saved from one cat only to find herself in the paws of a much larger one. She went back into her grandmother's room. The nurse had left, and her grandmother was drowsing lightly, the medication making her tired. Hana sat beside the bed and took her hand again, studying the woman who'd raised her, who'd taught her to be strong, to stand up for herself, to never let anyone make her feel small. "I don't need a savior," she whispered, remembering the words she'd once said to a bleeding stranger in an alley, words she barely remembered now. "I need justice." But what if the savior and justice came from the same hand? What if someone was offering both, expecting nothing in return? Or worse, what if they did expect something, and she just didn't know what it was yet? Across the city, in his office, Woo-jin watched the live surveillance feed from the hospital. He could see Hana sitting beside her grandmother's bed, could see the worry etched into her features, despite the good news she'd received. "She knows something's off," Minseo said from where she stood reviewing reports. "She's too smart not to connect the pieces." "I expected that." Woo-jin leaned back in his chair. "Hana's always been perceptive. Even 8 years ago, she figured out I was in trouble without me saying a word." "So what's the plan? You can't keep helping her anonymously forever. Eventually, she'll demand answers." "I know." He closed the surveillance feed, giving Hana her privacy. "I'm working on the right approach. This isn't like normal operations. I can't just show up and explain that I've been watching over her for 8 years because she showed me kindness once. That sounds like stalking." "That's because it is somewhat like stalking, sir." Woo-jin shot her a look, but Minseo's expression remained professionally neutral. She was one of the few people who could get away with speaking to him so directly. "It's protective surveillance," he corrected. "There's a difference." "I'm sure she'll appreciate the distinction when she finds out." Before Woo-jin could respond, his phone buzzed. It was Sung-ho, the surveillance team leader. "Boss, we have a situation. Someone's been asking questions about the girl." Woo-jin sat forward immediately. "What kind of questions?" "Street-level inquiries in her neighborhood. Someone's trying to find out her routine, where she works, if she has family. They're being subtle about it, but not subtle enough. We flagged 3 separate individuals making similar inquiries within the past 2 hours. Do we know who sent them? Working on it. But boss, the timing suggests it might be connected to the Jay situation. Maybe he's trying to find leverage." Woo-jin's jaw tightened. He'd warned Jay about retaliation, had made it explicitly clear what would happen if the man even thought about going near Hana. 24 hours wasn't enough time for Jay to be this stupid, was it? Increase security around her. "I want people on foot, not just the car surveillance. If anyone approaches her, if anyone so much as looks at her wrong, I want them detained and brought to me. Understood?" "Understood. What about the girl? Should we warn her?" "Not yet. She's already suspicious. If we approach her directly now, she'll panic." Woo-jin stood and grabbed his jacket. "I'm going to have another conversation with CEO Jae. This one won't be as polite." "Want backup?" "Always, but stay outside. This is personal." 20 minutes later, Woo-jin was back at J Technologies, but this time he didn't bother with the formal entrance. He used the service elevator, accompanied by 2 of his men, and went straight to the executive floor. Jay's assistant tried to intercept them. "Sir, you can't just—" "Tell your boss that Mr. Han is here for an unscheduled meeting. Tell him it's urgent. Tell him he has 30 seconds to make time." Something in Woo-jin's voice made the assistant pale. She picked up her phone with shaking hands. 20 seconds later, Jay's office door opened. Jay looked worse than he had this morning. His tie was loosened, his hair disheveled, his eyes red-rimmed like he'd been drinking or crying or both. When he saw Woo-jin, fear flashed across his face before he tried to mask it with false bravado. "I posted the apology like you demanded. I had the Velvet Room rehire her. What more do you want?" Woo-jin stepped into the office, and his men quietly closed the door behind them, standing guard. "I want to know why you have people asking questions about Yoon Hana in her neighborhood. I was very clear about what would happen if you went near her. I don't know what you're talking about. I haven't sent anyone anywhere. I've been in this office all day trying to salvage the Hansung deal. Woo-jin studied him carefully. Jae was many things. Stupid, arrogant, cruel. But he'd built a career on negotiating and lying convincingly. Right now, though, he looked genuinely confused and frightened. You didn't send anyone to investigate her? No, why would I? You made it crystal clear what would happen if I did. I'm not suicidal. If Jae wasn't behind the inquiries, then who was? Woo-jin's mind raced through possibilities. Someone else who'd been at the Velvet Room that night? Someone who'd heard about the incident and saw an opportunity? Or something completely unrelated that just happened to coincide? If I find out you're lying, Woo-jin said quietly, the documentation I showed you this morning will be the least of your problems. Do you understand? I understand. I swear, I haven't done anything. I'm following your instructions to the letter. Woo-jin left without another word, his mind already moving to next steps. If Jae wasn't behind the inquiries, then there was another player he hadn't accounted for. Someone else interested in Hana. Someone else asking questions. That was unacceptable. He made a call as he walked to his car. Minseo, I need you to dig into everyone who was at the Velvet Room last night. Full backgrounds, current business dealings, any reason they might take interest in a waitress. Someone's making moves and I want to know who. On it. But boss, there's something else you should know. The hospital foundation that paid for the grandmother's treatment? There's been an inquiry into the source of the funds. Someone's trying to trace it. Who? Don't know yet. But whoever it is has connections. They got through the first 2 layers of shell corporations already. This was getting complicated. Woo-jin had built his empire on staying several steps ahead of everyone else, on controlling situations before they could spiral. But this situation, with Hana at the center, was already showing signs of spiraling beyond his control. Double our efforts on finding who's asking about Hana, triple the security around her, and Minseo, start preparing a contingency plan. If this gets messy, I want us ready to move her somewhere safe. You mean kidnap her? I mean protect her. There's a difference. Again, sir, I'm sure she'll appreciate the distinction. Woo-jin ended the call and sat in his car, staring out at Seoul's glittering skyline. Somewhere out there, Hana was finishing her hospital visit, probably heading to her evening shift at the coffee shop, completely unaware that multiple forces were now circling around her. He'd spent 8 years watching over her from a distance, content to be the anonymous benefactor, the ghost who made sure she survived. But now circumstances were forcing his hand. Soon, very soon, he'd have to step out of the shadows. The question was, when he did, would Hana see him as the savior he wanted to be, or the threat she should probably fear? Because the truth was, Woo-jin knew what he was. He'd built his power on violence and fear, on making people disappear when they became problems, on controlling outcomes through any means necessary. He'd done terrible things to survive, to climb, to become someone who could protect what mattered. And what mattered, more than he'd ever admitted even to himself, was the woman who'd shown him kindness when he'd deserved none. Please, he said quietly to the universe, to whatever gods might listen. Let me do this right. Let me protect her without destroying what she is. Let me be more than what I've become. But the universe, as always, didn't answer. Hana left the hospital at 6:30, heading to her evening shift at the coffee shop in Gangnam. The subway was crowded with evening commuters, everyone pressed together in tired silence. She found a handhold and let her mind wander as the train lurched through tunnels. Her phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Your 6 p.m. shift at Cafe Muse has been covered for tonight. Please take the evening off, you've earned it. Management. Hana frowned. She'd never gotten a shift covered by text before. Usually, you had to request coverage days in advance through the scheduling app. And the manager, Mrs. Kim, never signed texts as management. She always used her name. She called the coffee shop. Mrs. Kim answered on the third ring. Cafe Muse, how can I help you? Mrs. Kim, it's Hana. I got a text saying my shift was covered tonight. Oh yes, dear. A man called this afternoon, said he was from a corporate staffing agency that handles temporary replacements. He said you'd had a family emergency and needed the night off. He sent someone to cover your shift, already paid and everything. Very professional. But I didn't have a family emergency. I didn't call any agency. A pause. You didn't? But the man said? He knew your schedule, knew your name, even knew that you'd been thinking about requesting time off to visit your grandmother. I thought you'd arranged it. Ice ran down Hana's spine. Someone had called her work, impersonated her or claimed to represent her, and arranged coverage for her shift. Someone who knew her schedule, knew about her grandmother. Mrs. Kim, I didn't arrange this. Who's covering my shift right now? A young woman, very polite, showed up right at 6 with all the proper credentials. She's working now. Hana, what's going on? Should I be worried? No, it's probably just a misunderstanding. But I'm coming in anyway. I'll be there in 20 minutes. Hana got off at the next stop and caught a train back toward Gangnam, her heart racing. Someone was manipulating her life, moving pieces around like she was a chess piece. First the hospital bills, then the velvet room job, now this. It was too much, too fast, too coordinated. She needed answers, and she needed them now. When she arrived at Cafe Muse, she found Mrs. Kim behind the counter looking flustered, and a young woman she'd never seen before, working the espresso machine with professional efficiency. Hana, thank goodness, Mrs. Kim hurried over. This is Ji-won, from the agency. Ji-won, this is Hana, whose shift you're covering. Ji-won looked up, and Hana saw something flicker in her eyes. Recognition? Calculation? It was gone too fast to identify. Nice to meet you, Ji-won said smoothly. There must have been some confusion with the agency. I was told you needed emergency coverage. I didn't request emergency coverage. I don't know anything about an agency. How strange. Well, I'm here now, already paid for the shift. If you want to work, I'm happy to stay and help. It's busy tonight. It was true. The cafe was packed with students studying and couples on dates. An extra pair of hands wouldn't hurt. But that wasn't the point. I need to know who hired you, Hana said. What agency sent you here? Seoul Staffing Solutions. They're a temp agency that works with several coffee shops in the area. They called me this afternoon, said Cafe Muse needed emergency coverage. And they just happened to call you? Knew exactly when and where to send you? Ji-won's professional smile faltered slightly. Look, I'm just trying to do a job. I don't know anything about why or how. I get a call, I show up, I work. That's it. Hana pulled out her phone and searched for Seoul Staffing Solutions. The website looked legitimate, professional, with listings for various service industry positions. She called the number listed. Seoul Staffing Solutions, this is Minji speaking. How can I help you? I'm calling about a placement you made today at Cafe Muse in Gangnam. One of your workers, Ji-won, is covering a shift. Let me check our records. One moment, please. A pause. The sound of typing. I'm sorry, I don't see any placements at Cafe Muse today. Are you sure you have the right agency? Your worker is here right now. She said you sent her. That's impossible. We don't have anyone named Ji-won on our roster. And we definitely didn't make any emergency placements today. I think there's been some kind of mistake. Hana looked up at Ji-won, who was watching her with an expression that was no longer friendly, but not quite threatening either. More like resigned. Who are you? Hana asked quietly. Who sent you here? Ji-won glanced at Mrs. Kim, then back at Hana. Can we talk outside, privately? They stepped out onto the sidewalk, evening foot traffic flowing around them. Ji-won pulled out her phone, pressed a button, and held it up to show Hana a photo. It was a picture of Hana herself, leaving her apartment that morning. And in the background, clearly visible, was the black Mercedes that had been following her. My employer wanted to give you the night off, Ji-won said quietly. He thought you might need rest after everything you've been through, but he also knew you wouldn't take the time unless someone made arrangements. So I was sent to cover your shift. Your employer, who is he? I don't know his name. I work for a security company that takes contract assignments. We were told to monitor you, to help when needed, to keep you safe. That's all I know. Keep me safe from what? I don't know that either, but someone thinks you're in danger, and someone else is paying very well to make sure nothing happens to you. Hana's mind spun. The hospital bills, my grandmother's treatment, the velvet room job. Was that all him too? I only know what I was assigned to do, which was cover your shift tonight and make sure you got home safely. Beyond that, I can't say. Can't or won't, Ji-won's expression softened slightly. Look, you seem like a nice person. My advice? Accept the help. Whoever's watching over you, they're using a lot of resources to keep you safe. That usually means you need protection from something big. So just accept the help and stay safe, okay? I don't want protection. I want answers. Then ask him yourself. Ji-won pulled out a business card and handed it to Hana. Tomorrow, 2 p.m., this address. Someone wants to meet you. If you don't show up, they'll respect your decision and back off. But if you want answers, that's where you'll get them. Then Ji-won walked away, disappearing into the evening crowd before Hana could respond. Hana looked down at the card in her hand. It was expensive cardstock, heavy and textured, with an embossed address in Gangnam. No name, no phone number, just an address and a time. Tomorrow at 2 p.m. Answers. Or a trap. Hana had always trusted her instincts, and right now her instincts were screaming that her life had just become infinitely more complicated. But they were also whispering something else, something she couldn't quite articulate. Whatever was happening, whoever was behind it, wasn't trying to hurt her. Not yet, anyway. And after a lifetime of fighting alone, of solving every problem by herself, of never having anyone to rely on, maybe it was time to find out what it felt like to let someone help. Even if that someone was apparently powerful enough to manipulate hospital foundations, pressure CEOs, and deploy private security teams at will. Even if that someone might be more dangerous than any threat they were protecting her from. She looked up at the darkening Seoul sky and made a decision. Tomorrow, at 2 p.m., she'd get her answers. And then she'd decide whether to accept help from a mysterious savior or run as far and fast as she could from whatever web she'd been caught in. Hana didn't sleep well that night. She lay on her mattress in her tiny rooftop room, the business card on the floor beside her, staring at shadows cast by streetlights through her window. Every time she closed her eyes, her mind spun through scenarios. Best case, some wealthy philanthropist had randomly selected her for charity after witnessing the assault. Unlikely, but possible. Worst case, she'd somehow become entangled with organized crime, and tomorrow's meeting would end with her disappearing into the Han River. Most likely case, somewhere between those extremes, something complicated she didn't yet understand. She thought about calling the police, but what would she say? Someone paid my grandmother's hospital bills and got me rehired with a raise? Someone's protecting me? They'd think she was paranoid or attention-seeking. And if the person behind all this truly was connected to dangerous elements, involving police might make things worse. No, she'd go to the meeting, but she'd be smart about it. At midnight, she texted her coworker from the convenience store, Junho. If you don't hear from me by 4 p.m. tomorrow, I need you to call the police and give them an address. She included the address from the card and a brief explanation. Junho responded immediately. Are you okay? This sounds dangerous. Want me to come with you? No, just insurance. I'll be fine. She hoped that was true. At dawn, Hana went through her morning routine mechanically. Convenience store shift at 6, the familiar rhythm of scanning items and restocking shelves providing a strange comfort. The black Mercedes was parked across the street again, making no effort to hide now that she knew about it. Around 10 a.m., as she was organizing cigarette displays, 3 men entered the store. They didn't look like typical customers. Too coordinated, too aware of their surroundings, moving with the kind of casual confidence that suggested physical training. The leader, a man in his 40s with a scar running down his neck, approached the counter. Yoon Hana, Hana's hand moved instinctively toward the panic button under the register. Who's asking? Relax, we're here to deliver a message from CEO Jae-hyuk. Ice flooded her veins. Jae, the man who'd hit her, who'd supposedly been warned off, who'd posted that public apology. What did he want now? I have nothing to say to CEO Jae. He wants you to know he had nothing to do with the current situation. Someone's using his name to manipulate things, and he wants to make sure you understand he's not involved. What situation? The man pulled out his phone and showed her a photo. It was surveillance footage from inside Cafe Muse last night, showing her and Ji-won talking. This woman, the one claiming to work for a staffing agency, she works for the same people who've been pressuring CEO Jae. He wanted you to know that whatever they're planning, he's not part of it. Why should I believe anything he says? You shouldn't. But he figured you deserved a warning. Whoever's protecting you is powerful enough to threaten someone like CEO Jae. That means they're dangerous. Really dangerous. Be careful. The men left as quickly as they'd arrived. Hana stood behind the register, her hands shaking. So Jae knew about her mysterious benefactor, was frightened enough to send warning messages through intermediaries. That confirmed what she'd suspected. Whoever was behind this had serious influence. The question was whether that influence would be used to help her or control her. At noon, Hana's shift ended. She went home, showered, and changed into clean clothes. Nothing fancy, just jeans and a sweater, but neat and presentable. If she was walking into danger, she'd do it with dignity. The address on the card was in Cheongdam-dong, one of Seoul's wealthiest neighborhoods. Luxury apartments, designer boutiques, expensive cars gleaming in the winter sun. Hana took the subway as far as she could, then walked the final blocks, feeling increasingly out of place among the polished professionals and wealthy housewives. The building itself was understated but clearly exclusive. No obvious signage, just a street number and a discreet entrance. A doorman stood outside, professional and alert. I have a 2 p.m. appointment, Hana said, showing him the card. The doorman's expression didn't change, but something flickered in his eyes. Recognition? He spoke quietly into a radio, then nodded to her. 15th floor, the elevator will take you directly. The lobby was marble and minimalism, expensive art on the walls, the kind of place where even the air felt costly. Hana stepped into the elevator, which required no button press. It simply closed and began ascending smoothly. Her heart hammered. This was it. Answers or disaster, she was about to find out which. The elevator opened directly into a penthouse apartment, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Seoul, tasteful furniture, books lining built-in shelves. It looked more like a sophisticated home office than a crime lord's lair. But Hana had learned that dangerous things often wore attractive faces. A woman in her 30s, professional and composed, greeted her. Miss Yoon, thank you for coming. I'm Min Seo. Please have a seat. Can I get you anything? Tea, coffee, water? Answers, Hana said, remaining standing. I want to know who brought me here and why. Of course. He'll be here shortly. He's finishing a call. He who? Before Min Seo could answer, a door opened on the far side of the room and a man stepped out. He was tall, probably early 30s, wearing a simple but expensive black suit. His face was striking, handsome in a sharp-edged way, with dark eyes that seemed to calculate everything they observed. But what struck Hana most was the way he moved, controlled and purposeful, like someone accustomed to violence but choosing restraint. And there was something familiar about him, something that tugged at the edges of her memory. He stopped a few feet away, studying her with an intensity that made her want to step back. But Hana held her ground, meeting his gaze with her own. Yoon Hana, he said quietly. Thank you for coming. I know this must be confusing and probably frightening. Who are you? My name is Woo-jin. We've never formally met, but I've known about you for a long time. 8 years, to be precise. 8 years. That number meant something, but Hana couldn't place it. What do you want from me? Want from you? Nothing. I brought you here to explain why I've been helping you, and to ask if I can continue doing so with your knowledge and permission. The hospital bills, the job, the security, that was all you. Yes. Why? Woo-jin moved to a cabinet and pulled out something small, holding it carefully like it was precious. He walked back and held it out to her. It was a student ID card, her student ID card, from Seoul National University, the one she'd carried 8 years ago as a nursing student. She'd lost it somewhere, hadn't thought about it in years. The plastic was worn now, creased from being carried in a wallet or pocket for a long time. Do you remember losing this? Woo-jin asked softly. Hana took the card, staring at her younger face, trying to remember. I lost it somewhere in my 2nd year. I had to get a replacement, but I don't understand why you have it. You dropped it in an alley in Hongdae, on a rainy night in November 8 years ago. You were running to catch the last subway home from your part-time job, and you found someone bleeding behind a dumpster. The memory hit her like a physical blow. The rain, the blood, the young man who'd been stabbed, who'd refused to go to a hospital, who'd looked at her like he expected her to run away screaming. Hana's eyes widened as she looked from the ID to Woo-jin's face, searching for the features of that wounded stranger beneath the confident, powerful man standing before her. You, she whispered. You were the one in the alley. I was. Woo-jin's voice was steady, but his eyes held something deeper. You saved my life that night. You had no reason to help me, every reason to be afraid, but you stopped anyway. You cleaned my wounds, shared your food, sat with me until I could walk, and then you left before I could even thank you properly. Hana's mind raced back through that night. She'd been 18, naive in some ways, but determined to make a difference in the world. She'd seen someone suffering and helped because that's what you did, what you were supposed to do. She'd never thought about it again, chalked it up to one of those random encounters that happen in a city of 10 million people. I don't understand. That was 8 years ago. If you wanted to thank me, you could have found me any time. Why now? Why like this? Because it took me 8 years to become someone capable of protecting you properly. That night, I was nobody, a low-level criminal running from people who wanted me dead. I had nothing to offer you except gratitude. So I kept your ID, reminded myself that I owed a debt to someone who showed me kindness, and I worked to become someone who could repay it. By doing what? Hana's voice rose slightly. By building whatever empire you've built? By threatening CEOs and manipulating hospitals? What are you, Woo-jin? What exactly have you become? He didn't flinch from her anger. I'm someone who operates in the shadows of Seoul's legitimate world. I control territories, manage operations that exist in legal gray areas, or beyond them entirely. I'm what people call a fixer, though that's a sanitized term for what I actually do. A criminal. You're saying you're a criminal. Yes, though I prefer to think I'm someone who maintains order in spaces where the law either can't or won't reach. Hana laughed, but it came out sharp and bitter. So, I save someone's life and they respond by becoming a gangster and stalking me for 8 years? Is that what you're telling me? Not stalking. Watching over you. Making sure you survived, that you had opportunities, that when you fell on hard times, there was help available. Without asking me? Without giving me a choice? You just decided to play guardian angel and manipulate my life? I know how it sounds, Woo-jin said quietly. I know it seems controlling and intrusive. But Hana, you were drowning. Your grandmother's bills were crushing you. You'd given up your dreams to work 3 minimum wage jobs, and then someone assaulted you in public, and your employer fired you for being a victim. I couldn't watch that happen without doing something. So you threatened Jae-hyuk. I made it clear there would be consequences if he didn't make things right. Yes. And the hospital bills? You paid 8 million won just like that? Money means nothing compared to making sure you and your grandmother are safe. Hana shook her head, overwhelmed. This is insane. You're insane. I don't want protection from a criminal. I don't want money that comes from whatever illegal things you do. I don't want any of this. She turned toward the elevator, but Woo-jin's voice stopped her. When you found me that night, I asked you not to call the police. You figured out I was in trouble, understood that hospitals would mean questions I couldn't answer. But you helped me anyway. You didn't judge what I was or demand to know my story. You just saw someone suffering and helped. Hana paused, her hand on the elevator button. I'm not asking you to approve of what I've become, Woo-jin continued. I'm not asking for forgiveness or understanding. I'm just asking if I can continue helping you, openly this time. You'd have full knowledge of where the money comes from, full choice in whether to accept it. If you say no, I'll respect that. I'll have my people back off. You'll never see or hear from me again. And if I say yes, then I'll do everything in my power to make sure you never have to struggle the way you have been. Your grandmother gets the best treatment available. You can return to nursing school if you want. You can pursue whatever life you've been putting on hold. All I ask is that you let me do this one thing to repay the debt I owe you. Hana turned back to face him. You don't owe me anything. I did what any decent person would do. That's exactly why I owe you everything. Because in my world, decent people are rare. Kindness without expectation of reward doesn't exist, but you gave it freely to a stranger who'd done nothing to deserve it. That changed me, Hana. It made me believe that maybe there was more to life than survival and revenge. So yes, I do owe you. I owe you everything I've become, good and bad. They stood there, separated by 15 feet and 8 years of unknowing connection. Two people whose lives had intersected for less than an hour, but had somehow become tangled together in ways neither had anticipated. Hana looked at him, really looked at him, trying to see the wounded young man beneath the powerful, dangerous presence. She could see traces of him in the way Woo-jin held himself, guarded, but with an underlying vulnerability. He probably thought he hid better than he did. You said someone was asking questions about me. That's why you increased security. Yes, we still don't know who, but someone's interested in you beyond the Jay situation. I want to make sure you're safe until we figure out what's going on. And you think I need protection because of something you did? I think you might need protection because of something I'm about to do. Woo-jin's expression hardened slightly. Jae-hyuk posted that apology, but it was forced. He's humiliated, angry. Men like him don't accept humiliation gracefully. He sent people to warn you about me, which means he's already trying to manipulate the situation. And if he's doing that, others might see you as a vulnerability they can exploit to get to me. Then maybe you should just leave me alone. If your protection is what's putting me in danger. You were already in danger the moment Jay hit you in public. That video exists. People saw it. You became a story. And in Seoul's elite circles, stories have consequences. With or without my involvement, you were going to face blowback. I'm just making sure the blowback doesn't destroy you. Hana wanted to argue, wanted to insist she could handle her own problems. But the truth was, she'd been drowning. The bills, the jobs, the constant struggle just to survive had been grinding her down to nothing. And now someone was offering her a way out, even if that someone was himself a complicated moral dilemma. I need time to think about this, she said finally. Of course, take all the time you need. And I want to know more about who you are, what you actually do. If I'm going to accept help from you, I need to understand what I'm accepting. Woo-jin nodded. I'll answer any questions you have, honestly. No more secrets. How do I contact you? Min-seo stepped forward and handed Hana a phone. This is a secure line. It only has one number programmed, direct line to Woo-jin. If you need anything day or night, call. Even if you decide you want nothing to do with this, keep the phone. Use it in emergencies. Hana took the phone, its weight solid and somehow reassuring in her hand. The security team following me. Can you make them less obvious? It's unnerving. They'll adjust their approach, Woo-jin said. You won't notice them unless there's a threat. And my grandmother, she can't know about any of this. It would terrify her. She won't hear anything from us. Hana nodded slowly, then moved toward the elevator. Before stepping in, she turned back one more time. That night in the alley, I told you that you seemed like someone who could be more than what you were. Do you remember that? I remember every word you said that night. Did you become more? Or did you just become more dangerous? Woo-jin's expression was difficult to read. I'm not sure there's a difference in my world, but I'm trying, Hana. Every day, I'm trying to be someone who deserves the chance you gave me. The elevator doors closed, and Hana rode down in silence, her mind spinning. When she emerged onto the street, the winter sun felt too bright, the world too normal for everything that had just happened. Her phone buzzed, the regular phone, not the new one. It was a text from Junho. You okay? Getting worried. She checked the time, 3:15. She'd been in that penthouse for over an hour, time that had felt both like minutes and eternity. I'm fine, she texted back. False alarm, sorry for worrying you. But it wasn't a false alarm. It was something much more complicated, much more dangerous, and potentially much more life-changing than she'd ever anticipated. Hana started walking, not toward home or work, but just walking, needing movement to process everything. She found herself in a small park, sitting on a bench, watching children play, while their parents chatted nearby. Normal life, simple life, the kind of life she'd been living, struggling but simple, where the biggest threats were unpaid bills and difficult customers. And now she'd been offered a way out of that struggle by someone who'd spent 8 years becoming powerful enough to help her. Someone who operated outside the law, who threatened people, who controlled criminal enterprises. Someone who'd also been wounded and alone once, who she'd helped without thinking twice. The old Hana, the nursing student with dreams of helping people, would have refused immediately, would have insisted on handling her own problems, on maintaining her independence and moral purity. But that Hana had been naive. 8 years of harsh reality had taught her that sometimes survival meant compromise, that sometimes help came from unexpected places, that sometimes the line between right and wrong was less clear than she'd once believed. She pulled out the new phone Woo-jin had given her. Expensive, clearly customized, the kind of technology that probably couldn't be traced or hacked. One number programmed in. She could call right now, ask more questions, or tell him to leave her alone forever. Instead, she put both phones in her pocket and sat, watching the children play, not yet ready to make a decision that would change everything. What Hana didn't know was that in 3 separate locations across Seoul, 3 different groups of people were having conversations about her. In his office, CEO Jae-hyuk was meeting with a private investigator, trying to find information about Woo-jin's operations that could be used as leverage. In a nondescript building in Gangbuk, a man named Choi Dong-woo was reviewing reports about Woo-jin's recent activities, noting the unusual attention paid to a seemingly ordinary waitress, recognizing a potential weakness. And in Woo-jin's penthouse, Min-seo was reviewing security footage from multiple cameras around the park where Hana sat, coordinating with the surveillance teams, making sure she remained safe while she made her decision. The web was growing more complex by the hour, and Hana, sitting peacefully on that park bench, was at the center of it all, the thread that connected everything. She just didn't know it yet. 3 days passed. 3 days of Hana going through the motions of her life while everything felt fundamentally different. She worked her shifts, visited her grandmother, attended to all the small necessities of survival. But underneath it all, her mind churned constantly with the decision she had to make. The secure phone sat in her apartment, untouched but impossible to ignore. Every time she looked at it, she thought about Woo-jin's face, the way he'd held her old student ID like it was something sacred, the quiet intensity in his voice when he'd said he owed her everything. Her grandmother noticed something was different. During one of Hana's hospital visits, the old woman grabbed her hand with surprising strength. "You're troubled, child. I can see it in your eyes. Tell your Halmione what's bothering you." Hana had almost told her everything then. Almost explained about the mysterious benefactor, the criminal protector, the impossible choice. But she'd swallowed the words and offered a weak smile instead. "Just tired. Working a lot." "You're always working a lot, but this is different. You look like someone carrying a heavy decision." Her grandmother's eyes, still sharp despite her failing body, studied her carefully. "When I was young, my mother told me something I've never forgotten. She said that the hardest choices are often between two goods or two evils, not between good and evil. Those are easy. It's when both paths have merit and cost that we truly struggle." "What did you do when you faced choices like that?" "I asked myself which choice I could live with, not which was right or wrong, but which consequences I could carry without losing myself. Sometimes survival means accepting help from unexpected places. Sometimes it means maintaining independence even when it costs you. Only you know which truth applies to your situation." Now, sitting in her rooftop room on the third night, Hana finally picked up the secure phone. She didn't call, just held it, feeling its weight, thinking about what it represented. A lifeline, a compromise, a door into a world she'd never wanted to enter. But also, potentially, freedom from the grinding poverty that had defined her life for the past 2 years. A chance to finish her education, to actually help her grandmother, instead of just watching her slowly decline, to stop being so tired all the time that she could barely think straight. Before she could second-guess herself, Hana pressed the single button that would connect her to Woo-jin. He answered on the first ring. Hana. Just her name, but the way he said it carried weight. Relief, maybe, or anticipation. "I have questions," she said. "A lot of them. And I need honest answers." "I'll give them to you. When and where do you want to meet?" "Not your office. Somewhere public. Neutral." "There's a bookstore in Samcheongdong. Book. It's quiet. Has private reading alcoves upstairs. Tomorrow at 3? I'll be there." After hanging up, Hana lay back on her mattress and stared at the water-stained ceiling. She'd taken the first step. There was no going back now. Book was the kind of place Hana had dreamed of spending time in when she'd been a student with dreams instead of a worker with the bills. 3 stories of carefully curated books, comfortable reading nooks, the smell of paper and coffee mixing in the air. It was designed for people who had leisure time, who could afford to lose themselves in stories. Hana arrived early, climbing to the 3rd floor where the alcoves were. Woo-jin was already there, sitting in a corner spot with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the traditional Hanok rooftops of Samcheongdong. He wore casual clothes today, jeans and a sweater, looking almost normal except for the way his eyes tracked every person who entered the floor. "Thank you for coming," he said as she sat across from him. The small table between them held 2 cups of tea, still steaming. "I haven't decided anything yet," Hana said firmly. "This is just information gathering." "Understood." She pulled out a small notebook, the kind she'd used for studying, now repurposed for a very different kind of research. "First question, what exactly do you do? Not euphemisms about operating in gray areas. Specifically." Woo-jin didn't hesitate. "I run several legitimate businesses, real estate development, a chain of restaurants, import-export operations. Those are clean, pay taxes, completely legal, but they're funded by and serve as fronts for less legitimate operations. Such as protection services for businesses that operate outside traditional banking systems, information brokerage, buying and selling sensitive data that corporations or individuals want kept private or exposed, conflict resolution between parties who can't or won't involve police, some gambling operations, though nothing involving drugs or human trafficking. Those are hard lines I don't cross." Hana wrote quickly, her nursing student note-taking skills coming back. "Protection services. That's extortion?" Sometimes, but more often, it's legitimate security for businesses that can't access traditional protection. Immigrant communities, undocumented workers, people operating in legal gray areas themselves. The police won't help them. We do. For a price. Everything has a price, at least we're honest about ours. Information brokerage, you mean blackmail. Sometimes, but also industrial espionage. Background checks that go deeper than legal channels allow. Finding people who don't want to be found. It's about access to information and knowing what to do with it. Hana looked up from her notes. And when you say conflict resolution, you mean violence. Woo-jin held her gaze steadily. Sometimes violence is implied. The threat of it is often enough. But yes, sometimes it becomes necessary. I won't lie to you about that. Have you killed people? The question hung in the air between them. Around them, other patrons browsed books, completely unaware of the conversation happening in this quiet alcove. Yes, Woo-jin said quietly. In self-defense, in protection of others, in situations where it was them or me. I'm not a murderer, Hana. I don't kill casually or for pleasure. But I've lived in a world where violence is sometimes the only language people understand. I've done what was necessary to survive and protect what matters. Hana's hand trembled slightly as she wrote. She'd asked for honesty, and he was giving it to her, not trying to soften or justify. Just stating facts. How many people work for you? Directly, about 40. Indirectly, through various operations and businesses, several hundred. Most of them don't know they work for me. They think they work for legitimate companies. And these people, the ones who know what you really do, are they criminals too? By legal definition, yes, but most of them are people like I was 8 years ago. People from difficult circumstances with limited options who needed a chance. I give them structure, purpose, fair compensation. In return, they provide loyalty. Loyalty through fear? Through mutual benefit. Fear is unstable. People motivated by fear will betray you the moment someone scarier comes along. I prefer people to work with me because the arrangement serves their interests. Hana flipped to a new page. The money you used to pay my grandmother's hospital bills, where did it come from? A legitimate account funded through my real estate holdings. But originally, yes, that money came from the other operations. All my wealth has that stain on it somewhere in its history. So, if I accept your help, I'm accepting blood money. Essentially, yes. I won't dress it up as anything else. Hana set down her pen and looked at him directly. Why are you being so honest? Most people in your position would lie, make themselves sound better. Because you deserve the truth, and because if you're going to accept my help, you need to know exactly what you're accepting. I don't want you to have illusions about who I am or how I built what I have. Make your decision with full information. What if I decide to report you to the police? I now have detailed information about your operations. Woo-jin smiled slightly, but there was no warmth in it. You could try, but you'd find that I have arrangements with several people in the law enforcement. Not everyone. Not at the highest levels, but enough that any report you made would likely disappear. That's not a threat, just a reality of how things work. That's depressing. It's the world we live in. I didn't create the system, Hana. I just learned how to operate within it. She looked out the window, watching people walk by on the street below. Normal people living normal lives, unaware of the shadow world operating alongside theirs. She'd been one of them until 3 days ago. What happens if I say yes? She asked quietly. What would that actually look like? Your grandmother continues receiving the best care available. Her bills are covered indefinitely. You can quit one or more of your jobs, focus on returning to school if you want, or pursue something else entirely. I provide financial support, security if needed, connections if you need doors open. In exchange, you let me do this. That's it. No expectations, no obligations, none. You wouldn't owe me anything. You'd never be asked to participate in or condone any of my business operations. This is purely about repaying a debt, nothing more. And if I want out later, if I decide I can't accept this anymore, you tell me and it stops. I wouldn't force you to stay in any arrangement you're uncomfortable with. Hana studied his face, looking for deception, for hidden motives. But Woo-jin's expression was open, patient, waiting for her decision without pressure. There has to be more to it, she said. People don't do this much for someone they met once 8 years ago. What do you really want from me, Woo-jin? He was quiet for a long moment, and when he spoke, his voice carried something vulnerable beneath the control. I want to know that the person who saved my life is okay. I want to know that she's not drowning while I have the power to help. I want to believe that kindness can be repaid, that debts matter, that one good act can echo forward through years. He paused. And maybe, selfishly, I want to believe that I can be someone who protects good people instead of just someone who survives by any means necessary. So, I'm what? Your redemption project? No. You're the person who showed me that redemption might be possible. Hana felt something shift inside her chest. This was more complicated than simple charity or guilt. Woo-jin had built an entire empire partially as a response to one night of kindness, had carried her memory with him for 8 years, had become powerful specifically so he could repay what he saw as an unpayable debt. It was obsessive in a way, unhealthy maybe, but also somehow heartbreaking. I need to think more, she said, closing her notebook. This is too big to decide right now. Take all the time you need. But I have another question. You said someone was asking questions about me, that I might be in danger. Have you found out who? Woo-jin's expression darkened. We're working on it. There are several possibilities. Jae-hyuk is still a concern despite his warnings to stay away. He's humiliated and angry, but there's also someone else, someone from my world who might see you as leverage. Leverage for what? For getting to me. I've been very careful over the years to have no obvious weaknesses, no family or close relationships that could be exploited. But now I've shown unusual interest in protecting you. That makes you valuable to anyone who wants to pressure me. So, by trying to protect me, you've painted a target on my back. Possibly, which is why I want to ensure you have proper security until we neutralize the threat. Hana rubbed her temples, feeling a headache building. This is insane. 3 weeks ago, my biggest problem was paying bills. Now I'm apparently caught in some kind of criminal power struggle. I'm sorry. Truly. If I could undo the attention I brought to you, I would. But since I can't, the best I can offer is protection. Protection I never asked for. No, you didn't. They sat in silence for a while, the bookstore's peaceful atmosphere at odds with the weight of their conversation. Finally, Hana stood. I'll call you in a few days with my decision. Until then, I need space to think clearly. The security team will remain in place, for your safety. Fine, but tell them to be invisible. I don't want to constantly feel watched. I will. Hana left the bookstore, stepping out into the cold afternoon air. Her mind felt overloaded, too many variables to process at once. She started walking, no destination in mind, just needing movement. She didn't notice the man following her from a careful distance. Not one of Woo-jin's security team, but someone else entirely. Someone who'd been watching the bookstore, waiting for her to emerge. Choi Dong-woo had been in Seoul's underworld for 20 years, long enough to recognize an opportunity when he saw one. Woo-jin had been a thorn in his side for the past 5 years, absorbing territories, offering better deals to potential allies, making Choi's own operations look sloppy and brutal by comparison. But everyone had a weakness. And Woo-jin had just revealed his. Choi pulled out his phone and made a call. I found her, the girl he's protecting. Follow her, learn her patterns, but don't approach yet. I want to know everything before we make a move. 3 blocks ahead, Hana walked through Seoul's streets, completely unaware that the danger Woo-jin had warned about was already closer than anyone realized. That evening, Hana's shift at the convenience store was quiet. It was a weeknight. cold enough that most people stayed home. She used the lull to restock shelves and think. The truth was, she'd already made her decision. She just didn't want to admit it yet because admitting it meant acknowledging how desperate she actually was. She needed help. Her pride hated admitting it, but her exhausted body and empty bank account couldn't deny it. The past 2 years had ground her down to nothing. She was one emergency away from complete collapse, one unexpected expense from being unable to pay rent, one illness from losing all 3 jobs. And Woo-jin was offering a way out. Yes, it came with moral complications. Yes, the money had blood somewhere in its history. Yes, accepting help from a criminal meant compromising her principles. But her principles didn't pay hospital bills. Her principles didn't keep her grandmother alive. Her principles didn't give her back the education she'd sacrificed, or the future she'd given up. Sometimes survival meant accepting help from unexpected places, her grandmother had said. Maybe this was one of those times. Around 9 p.m., the store's door chimed. Hana looked up from the inventory sheet she was filling out and felt her blood run cold. 3 men had entered. They weren't threatening overtly, just browsing the aisles, but something about them set off every alarm in Hana's instincts. The way they moved too deliberately, checking corners, noting camera positions, the way they communicated with small gestures instead of words. These weren't customers. Hana's hand moved slowly toward the panic button under the register. But before she could press it, one of the men appeared at the counter, smiling pleasantly. "Working late?" he said conversationally. "Can I help you find something?" Hana kept her voice steady, despite her racing heart. "Actually, yes. I'm looking for information. About a mutual acquaintance. Woo-jin. I heard you two had a meeting today." Hana's mind raced. These weren't Woo-jin's people, and they weren't police. That left only one option: rivals or enemies. "I don't know anyone named Woo-jin," she said flatly. "Really? Because my sources say you spent over an hour with him at a bookstore this afternoon. Had quite an intense conversation." How did they know that? Had they been watching the bookstore? Following her? "I think you have me confused with someone else." The man's pleasant expression didn't change, but his eyes went cold. "Let's not play games. We know Woo-jin's protecting you. We know he's been paying your bills, solving your problems. What we want to know is why. What are you to him?" "Nothing. I'm nobody." Nobody doesn't get 8 million won in hospital bills paid. Nobody doesn't get personal protection details. Nobody doesn't get private meetings with one of Seoul's most dangerous men. He leaned closer. "So let's try again. What are you to Woo-jin?" Before Hana could respond, the convenience store door chimed again. 2 more men entered, but these moved with a different kind of purpose. Hana recognized one of them from the black Mercedes. Sung-ho with the scar down his jaw. The atmosphere in the store changed instantly. The 3 men who'd been questioning Hana tensed, hands moving toward concealed weapons. Sung-ho and his partner did the same. "Gentlemen," Sung-ho said calmly, "you're in the wrong neighborhood. I suggest you leave. We're just having a conversation with a young lady. The conversation's over. Leave now, and we'll all pretend this didn't happen." The lead man looked at Hana one more time. "Think about your position carefully. Woo-jin can't protect you every moment of every day. Eventually, you'll be alone. And when that happens, we'll have this conversation again." Then they left, moving casually like they'd just finished shopping, but Hana could see the tension in their shoulders, the way their hands stayed near their weapons until they were out the door. Sung-ho approached the counter. "Are you all right? Did they hurt you?" Hana's hands were shaking. "Who are they?" "Choi Dong-woo's men. He's a rival who's been trying to move into Woo-jin's territory for years. Looks like he's decided you're a vulnerability he can exploit." "I need to call Woo-jin." "Already done. He's on his way." 15 minutes later, Woo-jin arrived. Hana had never seen him move like this, controlled fury radiating from every line of his body. He'd brought more security, and they'd quietly swept the store and surrounding area. Tell me exactly what they said, Woo-jin demanded. Hana recounted the conversation, trying to remember every detail. Woo-jin's expression grew darker with each sentence. They know about the bookstore meeting, he said quietly, which means they've been watching either you or me or both. This is escalating faster than I anticipated. What does Choi want? To use you against me. If he can take you, he gains leverage. He can demand territory, operations, information. Or he can hurt you to hurt me, prove that I'm not as untouchable as people think. Hana felt nausea rising. This is because of me, because you helped me. No, Woo-jin's voice was firm. This is because Choi is ambitious and ruthless. He would have found some other angle eventually. You just happened to give him an opening. So what do I do? You can't stay in your apartment. It's not secure enough. And working these public jobs makes you too accessible. I want to move you somewhere safe until we handle this. Handle this how? However necessary. The implications were clear. Woo-jin was going to respond with force, probably violence. People might die because of the situation she was caught in. I don't want people killed because of me, Hana said. People won't be killed because of you. They'll be killed because they chose to threaten what I protect. That's on them, not you. I never asked to be something you protect. I know. Woo-jin's voice softened slightly. I know you didn't ask for any of this. But we're here now and Choi has made his move. We can't undo it. We can only respond. Hana looked around the convenience store, this mundane place where she'd spent countless hours scanning items and restocking shelves. Normal life, simple life. That was over now, wasn't it? If I agree to your help, she said slowly, if I accept everything you're offering, can you actually keep me safe? Honestly? Yes, but it would mean changes, real ones. Moving, probably. Staying out of public view for a while. Accepting full security. It would feel restrictive. More restrictive than constantly looking over my shoulder, wondering if some gangster is going to grab me. Fair point. Hana took a deep breath. Okay, I'll accept your help. All of it. Whatever it takes to keep my grandmother and me safe. Something flickered across Woo-jin's face. Relief, definitely. But also, something else. Something that looked almost like hope. Thank you, he said quietly. Don't thank me. I'm not doing this because I want to. I'm doing it because I don't have better options. And Woo-jin, if people die because of this situation, I'll never forgive either you or myself. So find a way to handle Choi without turning this into a war. I'll do everything I can to minimize casualties. That's not the same as preventing them. No, it's not. But it's the best I can promise in this world. Within an hour, Hana had been moved from her apartment to a secure location, a furnished apartment in a high-security building in Gangnam. Her grandmother remained in the hospital, but security had been increased around her room. All of Hana's jobs had been contacted with the explanation that she had a family emergency and needed immediate leave. And just like that, Yoon Hana's normal life ended. She'd crossed a threshold she couldn't uncross, accepted help that came with the strings she was only beginning to understand. She sat in the new apartment, expensive and comfortable and completely foreign, and wondered if she'd just made the best decision of her life or the worst mistake. Only time would tell. The apartment Woo-jin had moved her to was beautiful in an impersonal way. Modern furniture, tasteful art, floor-to-ceiling windows with a view of Seoul's glittering skyline. Everything was new, expensive, perfect. It felt like a hotel room designed for someone with no history, no personality, no life. Hana stood at the window, looking out at the city. Somewhere out there was her rooftop room with its water-stained ceiling and rattling windows. Somewhere out there was the convenience store where she'd worked the morning shift for 8 months. Her grandmother was in a hospital bed 17 floors above the ground, surrounded by machines that beeped and hummed. And here she was, in a golden cage, protected but trapped. The security system is state-of-the-art, Minseo was explaining, showing her the control panel by the door. Fingerprint and code access only. The building has 24-hour security, and we have our own people stationed in the lobby and on this floor. No one gets to you without going through multiple checkpoints. So, I'm a prisoner, Hana said flatly. You're protected. There's a difference. Is there? I can't go to work, can't go home, can't live my normal life. How is that different from being imprisoned? Minseo's expression softened slightly. I understand this is difficult, but it's temporary. Once we neutralize the threat from Choi, you'll have more freedom. And how long will that take? I don't know. Days, maybe weeks. Woo-jin is working on it. After Minseo left, Hana explored the apartment. 2 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, a full kitchen stocked with food she hadn't chosen. The closet in the master bedroom held clothes in her size, still with tags attached. Someone had anticipated her measurements, her style preferences, everything. It should have felt thoughtful. Instead, it felt invasive. She found her old backpack on the bed, the one Minseo must have grabbed from her apartment. Inside were her phone, some clothes, her nursing textbooks, and the student ID Woo-jin had returned to her. She picked up the ID, studying her 18-year-old face, remembering the girl who'd stopped to help a bleeding stranger. That girl had believed the world was fundamentally good, that helping others was always right, that kindness was its own reward. What would she think of the woman Hana had become? Someone accepting help from a criminal, living in luxury bought with blood money, hiding from gangsters who wanted to use her as leverage. Her regular phone rang. Her grandmother's hospital, calling from the room phone. Halmione? Hanaya, where are you? The nurses said you called and said you couldn't visit today because of work. What work keeps you away all day? Hana's throat tightened. She hated lying to her grandmother. Just a special project. Very demanding. But I'm fine, I promise. You don't sound fine, you sound scared. I'm not scared, just busy. Hana? Her grandmother's voice was firm, the tone that meant she wouldn't accept evasions. I may be old and sick, but I'm not foolish. Something is wrong. Tell me the truth. I can't. Not right now, but I promise I'm safe, and I'll explain everything when I can. A long pause. Does this have anything to do with the bruise you got? The one you said was from falling on subway stairs. Indirectly, yes. Are you in trouble with bad people? I'm being protected from bad people. There's a difference. Protected by who? Hana, you're making me worry. I know, and I'm sorry, but Halmione, please trust me. I'm handling this and I'll be fine. Just focus on getting better, okay? After the call ended, Hana sat on the expensive leather sofa and let herself cry. Quiet tears, the kind that came from exhaustion and fear and guilt all mixed together. She'd wanted to protect her grandmother from worry, but instead, she'd created a situation where the old woman was probably imagining the worst. The secure phone Woo-jin had given her sat on the coffee table. She could call him, demand answers about how long this would last, what his plan was. But part of her didn't want to know. Knowing would make it more real. Instead, she opened one of her nursing textbooks, the one on emergency medicine, and tried to read. The familiar terminology, the diagrams of the human body, the procedures she'd once memorized, all of it felt like a window into a life she'd lost and might never get back. She was 3 pages in when someone knocked on the door. Not the doorbell, a physical knock. Hana froze, every muscle tensing. Miss Yoon, it's Sung-ho from security. I have dinner for you. She checked the peephole, saw the scarred man holding takeout bags, then opened the door cautiously. He smiled, trying to look non-threatening despite his intimidating appearance. Woo-jin thought you might not have eaten. I brought jjajangmyeon and tangsuyuk, comfort food. Thank you. May I come in for a moment, just to check that everything's working properly? Hana stepped aside, and Sung-ho entered, quickly scanning the apartment with professional efficiency. Satisfied, he set the food on the kitchen counter. I know this is hard, he said quietly. Being confined, separated from your normal life. But Woo-jin is moving as fast as he can to resolve the situation. How well do you know him? Woo-jin, I mean. I've worked for him for 7 years, longer than almost anyone. What's he like? Really like, not the version he shows people. Sung-ho considered the question carefully. He's the best boss I've ever had. Fair, strategic, doesn't ask people to do things he wouldn't do himself. But he's also intense. When he decides something matters, he commits completely. Sometimes, too completely. And I matter? That's why all this is happening? You matter more than you probably realize. I've never seen him this protective of anyone. Most of our operations are calculated, strategic. This is personal for him. That's what worries me. Personal means emotional. Emotional means unpredictable. Maybe, but it also means he'll do whatever it takes to keep you safe. In our world, that kind of loyalty is rare. After Sung-ho left, Hana ate the jjajangmyeon mechanically, tasting nothing. The apartment felt too quiet, too empty. She was used to noise, to cramped spaces filled with the sounds of other people's lives bleeding through thin walls. She decided to call Woo-jin. He answered immediately. Hana, are you settling in okay? I'm locked in a luxury apartment, hiding from gangsters who want to use me as leverage against you. Okay, seems like a stretch. Fair assessment. I'm sorry this is happening. Sung-ho said you're moving fast to resolve it. What does that mean exactly? A pause. It means I'm making it clear to Choi and others that threatening you has consequences. We're applying pressure through various channels, making it more expensive for him to pursue this course of action than to back off. Pressure. You mean violence. I mean strategic application of force. There's a difference. Everyone keeps telling me there are differences. Surveillance versus stalking. Protection versus imprisonment. Strategic force versus violence. Maybe from where you're sitting, those distinctions matter. But from here, they feel like semantics. You're angry. You have every right to be. I'm not angry. I'm scared and frustrated and feeling trapped. And I'm starting to question whether accepting your help was the right decision. Silence on the other end. When Woo-jin spoke again, his voice was quieter. If you want out, tell me. I'll find another way to keep you safe while respecting your boundaries. There is no other way, is there? You can't undo the attention you've brought to me. Choi knows about me now. Even if I walk away from you, he might still see me as useful leverage. Probably, yes. But I could arrange protection that doesn't require you to be in my world. Witness protection-style relocation. New identity if necessary. Hana laughed bitterly. So my options are be your protected ward or disappear entirely. Those are my choices. I wish I had better ones to offer you. She rubbed her forehead, feeling a headache building. What would you do if you were me? That's not a fair question. I've never been in your position. Try. Woo-jin was quiet for a long moment. If I were you, I'd probably resent the hell out of me. I'd feel trapped and manipulated even though that wasn't the intention. And I'd be trying to figure out if there was any way to regain control of a situation that felt completely out of my hands. That's surprisingly self-aware. I've had a lot of time to think about how this might feel from your perspective. Doesn't mean I know how to make it better, just that I recognize the problem. Can I see my grandmother? Not yet. Not until we're sure Choi won't try to grab you during transit. Hospital visits are too predictable, too easy to ambush. She's worried about me, and I can't even go reassure her. I know. I'm sorry. Stop apologizing. It doesn't change anything. Another pause. What do you need, Hana? How can I make this easier? I need my life back, but since you can't give me that, I need information. I need to know exactly what's happening with Choi, what your plan is, when I might be able to leave this apartment. I need to feel like I have some control, even if it's just the control that comes from knowing what's going on. Okay, I'll keep you updated. Daily briefings if you want them. I want them. And Hannah, thank you for trusting me enough to stay. I know it's hard. I'm not staying because I trust you. I'm staying because the alternatives are worse. There's a difference. She ended the call before he could respond, a small act of control in a situation where she had almost none. Across the city, in a nondescript office building in Gangbuk, Choi Dong-woo was having a very different conversation. Woo-jin moved the girl, his Lieutenant Park reported. We tracked her to a high-security building in Gangnam, impossible to approach without triggering multiple alarms. Choi, 53 years old and scarred from decades in Seoul's underworld, leaned back in his chair. So, he's protecting her seriously? Good. That confirms she's valuable. What's the play? We can't grab her from that location without starting a war. We don't need to grab her. We just need to make Woo-jin understand that protecting her is more expensive than giving us what we want. Which is? His territories in Gangbuk. 3 districts he took from me 5 years ago. He returns those, and we forget the girl exists. You think he'll trade territory for some waitress? If she meant nothing, he wouldn't have moved her to a secure location, wouldn't have deployed this much security. She matters to him, which means she's leverage. The question is, how much leverage? Park shifted uncomfortably. Boss, Woo-jin has more resources than we do. More people, better connections. If this escalates into open conflict, then we'll lose, yes, which is why we're not going to let it escalate. We're going to apply measured pressure, make him understand the cost of saying no, and negotiate from there. What kind of pressure? Choi smiled coldly. The kind that makes him nervous without crossing lines that force retaliation. We can't touch the girl directly, but we can touch things adjacent to her. Make her life complicated in ways that aren't technically our fault, but send a clear message. Like? The grandmother in the hospital. We can't hurt her, that would be crossing a line. But hospitals have computer systems, and computer systems can malfunction. Medical records can get corrupted. Medications can get delayed due to mysterious administrative errors. Nothing life-threatening, just annoying and stressful. And that sends what message? That we can reach the people she cares about, even if we can't reach her directly. That Woo-jin's protection has limits, and that cooperating with us is easier than constantly defending against little problems that pile up. Park nodded slowly. I'll make the arrangements. Quietly. After Park left, Choi stood and walked to his window, looking out at Seoul's sprawl. He'd built his organization from nothing, had survived gang wars and police crackdowns and backstabbing rivals. He'd learned long ago that direct confrontation was for amateurs. The real art was in applying pressure at unexpected angles, finding weaknesses and exploiting them gradually. Woo-jin was formidable, Choi wouldn't deny that. Younger, smarter, more adaptable to how Seoul's underworld was changing, but everyone had a weakness. And Woo-jin had just revealed his. Some waitress who meant enough that he'd deploy serious resources to protect her. That was exploitable. The key was to exploit it without pushing so hard that Woo-jin had no choice but to respond with overwhelming force. Thread the needle between too little pressure to matter and too much pressure to survive. Choi had spent his entire career threading needles. One more wouldn't be a problem. 2 days passed. 2 days of Hana living in the beautiful prison, reading textbooks, watching television, going slowly insane from boredom and confinement. Woo-jin called daily with updates, but the updates were always variations of, "We're working on it." On the 3rd morning, everything changed. The hospital called her at 7 a.m. Not her grandmother's room phone, but the nursing station, which immediately set off alarms in Hana's mind. "Miss Yoon, I'm calling about your grandmother's treatment schedule. There's been some confusion with her dialysis appointments." "What kind of confusion?" "Her records show conflicting information about her schedule. Some entries say she's scheduled for today, Others say tomorrow. We're trying to sort it out, but it might delay her treatment by a day or two. Hana's blood ran cold. She can't miss dialysis. She's scheduled 3 times a week on specific days. Any deviation could be dangerous. We understand, and we're working to resolve it. But there seems to be a computer system issue affecting several patients' records. The IT department is investigating. After hanging up, Hana immediately called Woo-jin. The hospital is having computer problems affecting my grandmother's treatment schedule. This isn't a coincidence, is it? No. His voice was tight with anger. It's Choi. He can't touch you directly, so he's applying pressure through adjacent targets. I'm handling it. Handling it how? My grandmother could die if she misses treatments. She won't miss treatments. I'm sending our IT people to the hospital now to fix whatever Choi's people did to their system. Your grandmother will get her dialysis on schedule. I promise. This is my fault. She's in danger because of me. No. She's in danger because Choi is a coward who attacks the vulnerable instead of facing his opponents directly. That's on him, not you. An hour later, Min-seo arrived with more security footage to show her. We've identified 3 of Choi's people who've been nosing around the hospital. They haven't approached your grandmother directly, but they've been mapping the facility, finding vulnerabilities. So what do we do? Woo-jin's increasing security around her room. We'll have people there 24/7. Choi can play his computer games, but he won't get physical access. This has to stop, Hana said firmly. Whatever needs to happen to end this, do it. I can't live like this, constantly worried about my grandmother, trapped in this apartment. End it. Min-seo exchanged a look with Sung-ho, who'd accompanied her. That's what Woo-jin wanted to hear. He's been holding back because he thought you'd want him to pursue less aggressive options. But if you're giving permission, I'm not giving permission for violence, but I am saying that whatever strategy leads to the fastest resolution, I support it. Within reason. Understood. I'll let him know. After they left, Hana paced the apartment, feeling caged and helpless. She'd spent her whole life trying to solve her own problems, to be independent and self-sufficient. Now she was completely dependent on others for her safety, her grandmother's safety, everything. It was intolerable. She grabbed the secure phone and called Woo-jin again. I want to meet with Choi. Absolutely not. Why not? I'm the leverage he's using against you. Maybe if I talk to him directly, explain that I mean nothing to you, he'll back off. First, that's a lie. You do mean something to me, and he knows it. Second, putting you in a room with him would be insanely dangerous. Third, men like Choi don't back off because someone asks nicely. Then what do we do? Keep playing this game until someone gets hurt? Until my grandmother has a medical emergency because of computer sabotage? Until you're forced to escalate to violence? I'm working on a solution that doesn't involve violence or putting you in danger. What solution? I can't tell you yet. But trust me, Hana, give me 3 more days. If I haven't resolved this by then, we'll try something else. 3 days, that's all you get. After that, I'm making my own decisions about how to handle this, whether you like them or not. She ended the call and went back to the window, watching Seoul live its life far below. Somewhere in those streets, plans were being made, moves were being executed, a shadow war was being fought over her without her having any say in it. 3 days. Then she'd take control back, even if it meant doing something dangerous or stupid, or both. She'd spent her whole life being powerless. She wasn't doing it anymore.